Welcome back to Streamline Entertainment. It is Marvin speaking. We're going to get straight into a reaction video in the missing disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley. She was 23 at the time, born the 12th of May 1974. She was on a cruise ship called the Rhapsody of the Seas in late March 1998 while en route to Caracal. Her whereabouts remain unknown. She was 23 years old, Longwood University graduate at the time of her disappearance. And so, obviously, there was a Netflix documentary which it came out. I think it was last Wednesday or just before that, sometime. And I think it stirred up a lot of emotion in this case and what happened. But like I said, there is so many different theories and thoughts and conclusions into what happened to her. But I wanted to hear from her brother Brad to see what he had to say. And he was in an interview and gave his own story. And to be honest, I really listened. I probably went through it is an hour and 10 minutes. I'm not going to play it all, but what I am going to do is just pick up points which I think are very, very important to what he's actually saying. I do believe him, to be honest with you, because there's a couple of points that a band member called Yellow, who worked actually on the boat as a musician, had a different story, which him actually speaking to Amy. So it's very, very interesting. Someone's lying here. Someone's not telling us the true story. But I'm probably going to do this in probably, it's going to be long, people, probably 3 or 4 parts to take this because there's so much to go through. Right, so this is part 1 anyway. Let's get straight on with this. And this is basically Amy's brother, Amy Bradley's brother, reveals untold details about sister's cruise disappearance. So you can go and watch it yourself. I'm just going to pick, obviously, pick bits off to it, and do subscribe to WTVR CBS 6. Let's get into this.
1998. It was a family trip. Mm-hmm. Everybody was excited.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly a family trip initially. My parents work in the insurance business, and they had qualified through their production for the year for a trip, for a cruise. It was like a prize for
a bonus
for their work. Yeah. So initially, Amy and I were not included in that prize. My mom and dad kind of went above and beyond to make sure that we could come with them. They got special permission. They were granted that permission. Now I'm sure they kicked themselves for having done so. But yeah, so it wasn't like a family trip that was personally arranged and all that. But anyway, we were invited to go with them. Both of us very excited. I know there's been some reports I've seen online. There's plenty of misinformation online about how Amy felt about going on the cruise. I can assure you we were both excited. I had been on a cruise a couple years prior. A buddy of mine and I in high school went on a volleyball beach cruise and had a fantastic time.
You were 21 and she was 23.
Correct.
At this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we, mom and dad told us that they had gotten permission for us to come with them. We're all in right away. Now, Amy and I had some reservations because neither of us like to fly. So we knew we had to get there. But we're like, we're doing, definitely we're on. Yeah. And then Amy was not a fan of the ocean or being in it. She was a longtime swimmer, as we both were. She coached the swim team. She was a lifeguard. She was proficient in the water. But you put her in the ocean, and she's scared to death of what's in the water.
Sharks,
that she can't see.
Sharp objects, all kinds of
I mean, you step on a crab, and she's going to lose her mind.
Yeah.
So, she would never go in the water, very deep. If she did, she'd be hanging on somebody, so she didn't touch the bottom and all that kind of stuff. So she didn't like the ocean, but she decided, big deal. We're not going to be in the water. We're on a boat. So my parents flew down earlier than us because they had already had different plane tickets and we had to get separate tickets. So she and I flew down together from Richmond. to Miami, from Miami to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and had a great time talking on the plane about what we were going to be doing. Since I had a prior cruise, like Amy looked at me like I was a cruise expert, and
Right.
which I certainly wasn't. But she was asking me a lot of questions about what kind of things we're going to be doing, and I'm like, I really don't know. I've not been to these islands. So, we're listening to music on the way down. We're sharing stories. We're having a good time. And we get to San Juan. We board the boat. Super exciting. It's huge. I think at the time it was one of the largest cruise ships in the world. Now it's by far not, but
Right.
we do the whole muster drill, and everybody's in their life jackets and the roll call and the whole thing. So that everybody was very excited. We were
Right.
having a great time.
And things were going perfectly fine, perfectly normal. One night, the two of you decide to stay out a little bit late and have fun in a nightclub on the boat.
Yeah.
So basically, that was the introduction of, Brad telling the story of him and Amy going on to their cruise with their parents. But I want to go on. You can look at this yourself, people, all the way through at the end of the day. But it's just him basically explaining a lot of the time what they were doing and why they actually went there. But I just want to move on to the actual, basically, night, because it's very, very important that technically, morning that Amy actually went missing. And it's good. What I got from Brad is that he's got a very good memory into what actually happened, and I believe him. And one of the big red flags was Yellow, who basically it was said that basically did try to, Amy told her brother Brad while they were in the disco at the time that Yellow tried to feel her up and stuff, basically, but she just seemed to laughed it off, and it wasn't really taken that seriously. But like I said, I think there are things that actually sort of come out, which later that you didn't expect. Gonna move on, people. So we move on where basically they obviously started to relax on the boat, went swimming. At the end of the day, had some rest, then went out to get some food. But I think this is quite an important part about the staff giving Amy a lot of attention, which is fair enough. And Brad didn't actually think anything of it. He thought it was quite funny.
Ready for the formal dinner.
Right.
So, I had a tux, and Amy had a nice dress, and we all got dressed up and go to dinner. Had a nice time. On the cruise, there was special attention from our personal wait staff toward Amy. And we joked around the table like, hey, if anybody needs any refills or extra butter, just tell them Amy wants it, and it'll be it'll be right here. So, we did that formal dinner. After that, we took pictures, which later disappeared mysteriously when we went to pick them up. They were gone. But we got, after the formal, we went back to the room, changed out of our formals, and got ready for the pool party. So there was supposed to be this big, thing up on the pool deck where there was dancers and music and performers and drinks and all this kind of stuff. So we got dressed for that, went up to the pool deck where essentially everybody was. It was loaded down, and having drinks, eating food, listening to music. There was a limbo contest that
you won.
I ended up winning. Yeah, it was hilarious. But so
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So we're all just joking around, having a good time. During that pool party, we were going up to the band called Blue Orchid, for which Yellow was the bass player, requesting songs. And they were taking requests, and say, we don't know that one. Okay, we'll do that one. And we're back.
Yellow, just for clarification, is the bass player's nickname.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, Alistair Douglas.
Yeah.
And now apparently goes by Christopher Douglas for some unknown reason. So fast forward, my mom and dad decide it's about midnight or whatever. Pool party's coming to an end. So they walk over to tell Amy, hey, we're going to go to bed. We love you. We'll see you tomorrow. She said, well, love you too. Okay. So they go to bed, they tell me good night, and Amy and I, everybody kind of shifted up to the dance club who was going to stay up. And so we left the pool party. We go up to what they referred to as the disco lounge, I think. But anyway, we go up to the dance club, listen to music, dancing, talking to people. I remember seeing Amy and Yellow come off the elevator because I was up there first. The video that you see of Amy dancing with Yellow, I was distracted doing my 21-year-old thing, talking to girls over here.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't, unfortunately, in a protective mode. Amy was my, big bad sister who didn't need anybody to help her with anything.
Sure.
So I'm not, in that mindset, and I'm doing my own thing. I'm talking to a couple girls on the other side. And at some point, I'm looking around, and because the club's coming to a close at about 3 a.m. They call last call, and I'm looking around like, where's Amy? And I look up to the upper level, and she's sitting. It's kind of an open balcony. She's sitting at a table with 4 or 5 people, and one of which was Yellow. And I don't know who the other people were. I presumed maybe the DJ or a couple other staff members, and they're sitting up at this table on the upper level. And it looked like kind of an employees only section, but she was up there. So I go to leave, and I'm like, I'm going to be out here. So I go out with these 2 girls and sit on the lounge chairs, maybe 30, 40 feet from the stairs coming out of the dance club. And I'm hanging out there, talking to them for, 20, 30 minutes. And, it's like 3:30 in the morning. I knew we had to kind of get up pretty early the next day. So one other point I'll make is while I'm out there sitting, I see Crystal Roberts and Lori Rennick, who later we can talk about. Those are the 2 girls that claim they saw Amy go up the elevator with Yellow between 5:30 and 6, at the time frame she was missing. So I see them out there.
It's very, very important that this Yellow said as soon as basically the nightclub had finished, he didn't see Amy again after that. And yet witnesses had said that they passed Yellow and her a bit later on, but I think it was after 5 o'clock. So someone's lying here. And like I said, there was a lot of accusations, that the father did it, the brother threw her over. I don't believe that, because like I said, when you actually watch this whole video, you can see how pacific he was and how much he loved his sister.
And they're walking around, and so I, tell the girls, hey, I'll see you tomorrow. I got to go to bed. Go back to the room. I think it was 3:35, if I'm not mistaken, that I hit the door. My parents are sleeping, so I sneak out on the balcony, and I'm still had a drink in my hand, and I'm out there hanging out. And 5 minutes later, literally, Amy comes sneaking out on the balcony with me. So we're out there. Both of us have been not crazy drinking, but everybody's been drinking pretty much all night.
Right.
And Amy was not a rookie in that regard. So she handled alcohol very well, much better than I did. And we're out there talking, having a normal conversation. She does mention that Yellow made an advance and touched her chest or tried to grab her boob or something like that. Don't remember.
So this was the point I actually made. I wanted to sort of discuss at the end of the day. So he was pretty hands-on. Maybe he thought that she had one too many and he could get in there, but that she was too smart for that, and she actually turned him down. And maybe he didn't like that. But like I said, there was a witness yesterday on the video I've done yesterday, and said a lot of things were going on the boat, which she didn't want to really discuss on a TikToker's channel, which I put up yesterday, which was kind of strange. As though, like I said, the young woman at the time, 21, didn't want to say a lot, but she was scared to. So it makes you wonder whether there was some kind of operation to traffic young girls somewhere else. That's what I get from this case. It's really strange. That's what I get from it.
Exactly what she said, but she kind of laughed it off. It wasn't really, she didn't make a big deal of it, but she did mention that he kind of made a physical
Yeah.
Pass
pass at her.
Mm.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, I don't think so, buddy.
There you go.
So, we sit out there and she's asking me about, what is there to do on Curacao? And I'm like, I've never been there. I don't know. We might be able to go jet skiing or, who knows what. I'm not sure. So I said, okay, it's like, a little after 4 in. I said, we got to get up in like 3 hours. Like, I'm going to go ahead and go to bed.
Mm.
So back up, when we left from San Juan initially, if you've ever been on a cruise ship for the first time, the boat starts kind of moving and you get a little seasick and it's kind of like, you don't feel too good. And she had that feeling initially. She got her sea legs and kind of got used to it, on the way to Aruba. When the boat left Aruba at 1 a.m. during the pool party, she kind of got that don't feel too good feeling. And then we're sitting on the balcony, and when I tell her I'm going to bed, she's like, yeah, I don't feel good. This wind feels good. I'm going to just stay here in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, I love you. See you tomorrow. And that, you've heard me maybe say on other interviews that has truly been very comforting to me, that was the last thing I ever said to her. She said, I love you too. I go inside, slide the door closed quietly, and I'm sleeping just inside the sliding glass door on a pull-out couch that she and I were sharing in my parents' room. Next morning, my parents wake me up with the panic look on their face, and you could tell something wasn't right immediately.
Mm.
Do you want your videos to look like this? Well, in just 14 days, we've taught all these people how to do it. Our program, 14-Day Filmmaker.
And they told me that they couldn't find Amy. So I kind of sprung up, like, what do you mean? And they said, my dad explained that he woke up around 5:30 or so, kind of looked over at us, saw just me, looked a little further. The curtain was pulled kind of halfway, so he could see her legs from the knees down sitting in the chair still.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, we're going to get up in a half an hour.
I'll just let her
I'll
sleep.
just leave her there and I'll wake her up when I get up. So he wakes up a half an hour later. The door's now open 12 or 18 inches. Her cigarettes and lighter were gone. Her shoes, her sandals were still on the balcony, but the shirt she was wearing when I went to bed was a yellow little polo shirt. Over top of a white tank top bodysuit was draped over the chair inside the room. So we imagined that she left the room for some reason, came in, went out to either see us coming into port. When you get to Curacao, there's a ton of colorful buildings and it's really cool looking. There's this huge bridge that spans over the canal. She was in a photography contest, so maybe she went up to take some pictures. Maybe she went just to watch the boat come into port. Or maybe she went back out to meet somebody who had arranged for her to meet them for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I get up. My parents actually, they say, stay here. We're going to go look. You be here in case she comes back and we miss her. So I sat there for another, 20, 30 minutes and kind of nervously wondering what's going on. And they finally come back to the room and say, okay, we can't find her in the general area. Will you come help us? So we all go out walking around down the hallways, through the public areas, the atrium, up on the pool deck, up around the disco, towards the front of the point of the ship, walk around the back of the ship, around the walking track, and, nowhere to be found. So while my parents are still looking and talking to other people, I'm sitting at a table by myself, adjacent to where the pool was, and realizing that this is bad,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go next. And Alistair Douglas walks up to me, yellow, and the first thing he said to me, I think this was probably close to 7 a.m, maybe even still before then. And he walks up and says, he's like, hey man, I'm sorry to hear about your sister. And I said, yeah, thank you. not thinking, how the heck
How
did
do
he
you
know
this fast, right?
something bad had happened?
Right.
I don't even know, and I'd have to check my timelines. I'm not even sure we had reported it.
One of the things is as well, which we will learn a bit later, is that the passengers who got off at Caraco at the end of the day weren't, or to go and see what the island was like, because they can come on and off when obviously the ship docks, is that they just let everybody off. And they said that they searched cabins. Not all the cabins were searched, which is quite bizarre. And it was only after people got off, they started to take it very, very seriously. And when the FBI got involved as well, that was bizarre to me. But we also hear from the captain, who was very blasé about what happened to Amy, and that the people that paid for the trips come first, and we couldn't just put Amy as number one because she was lost on the boat, or she got off the boat, or went overboard. It was really, really bizarre. Very, very bizarre. This is why I do think there was a third party accomplice and organised crime going on that boat, possibly trafficking.
To security yet. We may have. I'd have to get back to you on that. But anyway, he says, yeah, I left her, 3:40 or 3:30, and went back to my room. He said, when did you last see her? And so I'm like, well, I got back to the room about 3:30. He says, hold on a second, I want my brother to hear this. So he interrupts me. He walks about 50 feet over the other way where I guess his bandmates were sitting, brings one guy back over and says, okay, go ahead. And so, okay, I'm like, all right.
Sounds like he wanted to know.
I was with, we were in the disco. I was with her. I left the disco. I went back to the room at, 3:35. And then she came in 5 minutes later and then, proceeded to kind of tell him what had happened and what my timeline was and when I last saw her and all that stuff. So, I don't know where to go next from here. I think we went to the purser's desk to report her missing, speak to the head of security, and
then supposedly they start this search of the boat, right? Which is every nook and cranny, every corner, every closet. They say.
Well, that's
so
a little bit later. So the first thing was Mom and Dad were obviously losing their minds.
Right.
Hysterically emotional, demanding that they keep the doors shut, don't open the gangway, don't
let everybody
off the boat.
Right.
So the time frame that I think is important for everybody to realize that she disappeared in, we're not in the middle of the ocean. Mm-hmm. We're at Curacao. Mm-hmm. And she's like, please don't let anybody off. Like, shut everything down. We got to find our daughter. We can't find her. And they say, we're not going to do that. Mm-hmm. So please make an announcement. Go over the loudspeaker, let everybody know that we can't find Amy, and everybody, keep a lookout for her. We're not going to do that. It would disturb the other passengers.
Teenagers are building businesses with AI, while the only AI is ChatGPT. Let's
Okay. So I think it was probably 36 to 48 hours later. Could be wrong on that time frame, where they made a general announcement. Amy Bradley, please come to the purser's desk.
That long?
I believe it was. I don't know. The initial page that they made was, Amy Bradley, please come to the purser's desk.
Right.
Amy Bradley, please come to the purser's desk. What I think they wouldn't do.
So technically, that they didn't sort of put it across as though it was a missing persons case. As just to say, if she'd got lost, or she was in the cabins, or she went off with someone and fell asleep there, then she would hear the announcements that's what they were thinking, that she maybe still be on board, or at the end of the day, went to parties with other people. That's a possibility. But what they should have done is put a serious announcement out that this young woman's missing, which is quite bizarre, to be honest with you. That wasn't done. And why did it take 40
alarm
hours?
anyone.
Make the passengers aware that there was a missing person, or put pictures of Amy out, which they later did, 2 days later.
Right.
Because they didn't want to disrupt other people's good time.
Crazy.
So they instructed us, go back to your room. We'll come to you. Captain comes to our ship later and, assured us that they had done a complete search of the boat. Quote unquote, anything bigger than a bread box was searched, which we later found not to be true. They searched restrooms and
I've got a funny feeling, but we'll talk about it at a later date. I think there was a lot of people in on it, and I was listening to a lot of people talking about this case, and someone made a great point in that Amy was one of the youngest who was actually on the boat itself, one of the youngest at the end of the day, and got a hell of a lot of attention.
public areas and electrical closets and some things like that, but not all the crew's cabins or the passengers' cabins or anything to that degree.
So technically,
But they
like the captain.
convinced us that there had been a proper search done. They had confirmed that she was not on the ship, and that it was their suggestion that we get off on Curacao because there was an ongoing water search in the canal at the mouth of the island where the canal starts. And they had scuba divers and boats with radar and planes and helicopters, and even the ships, right outside the island were doing these grid patterns, searching every inch of the water. And they said, if Amy's found in the water, you want to be there. So we said, well, yeah. Okay, so we got off the boat. President of my dad's company at the time and his wife were there, and they got off the boat with us to help us. We were in no condition to handle a whole lot or make decisions or figure out what to do. So they, got us a room in this hotel on the waterway.
Where you were just waiting for information and people to communicate with you.
We were calling family. My mom was on the phone with her brother trying to get the FBI involved. And to get them on the ship, and which my uncle facilitated, by the way, and I'll get into when that happened later.
I tell you what I would have done. I would have basically been the first one off that ship and basically found out, looking who came out. But like I said, there's scenarios, did she come off? Someone put it in a suitcase or a box or something like that. It's weird. I just don't think she would have drowned. Don't forget, they were nearly at the port in Curacao. So why the hell, basically, and that water, I would imagine, wouldn't have been as deep as it was out to sea. So surely, basically, if they were searching for it in the water, she would have been found 100%. I don't think she went in that water. I really don't. So obviously, where the family was so much in distress, and the father and mother really getting ill over it, and it was a very, very stressful situation. It did seem as though the ship captain wanted them off the boat when they paid for this service, and their daughter's missing. They wasn't really basically willing to help them as much as they should. So they're basically saying, get off at Carago, contact the police or the FBI, and sort of deal with it yourself. That was basically, technically, the ship captain saying that to her, and it's explained here. This is the last part, people, of part one.
Royal Caribbean was not in any, great way trying to help you guys. I mean, the delay of the message because people were sleeping, and then sort of just generally wanting to suggest that she probably jumped. Am I wrong there? Is that
they like get off the ship, we have to leave and go to the next island, kind of thing.
Yeah. I just mentioned this because of the cruise director's comment about, look, you quoted it because I'm sure you've seen it multiple times, but he said something to the effect of, look, we can't ruin thousands of people's vacations just because one girl went missing.
Wow.
I mean, that hit me, and she's not my family. You know what I mean? That
it seemed to me that the ship captain, which we'll go into a bit later in another episode, it seemed like to me he already knew what happened to her and was just trying to play it off as an accident or she fell. And to be honest with you, he showed no sympathy whatsoever. But like I said, you'll understand that as the story goes on with the ship captain. Very shady indeed.
That was a striking comment to make.
Yeah, life goes on, cruises go on.
But
apparently.
right.
Yeah.
Do you think that was the mindset? Do you think he was accurately reflecting what the mindset was at that point?
Yeah, I don't think they had, we made an analogy that if at the time Clinton was president, Bill Clinton, and of course he was, because Hillary never was. But anyway, Bill Clinton was president, and we made the analogy that if Chelsea Clinton had been missing,
Right.
that boat would have been anchored in the same spot until she was found.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted us off that boat. They wanted to move on. They were interested and
preserving the vacation of the rest
preserving
of
their liabilities.
Right. So when you
And
got
not giving a
off,
toss
they
of
went
that
on
young
with their
woman.
scheduled departure.
On time.
On time departure. So like nothing really for the rest of those passengers on the boat. I mean,
and nobody really knew what was going on.
Right.
I don't think it was until we got back on the boat a day and a half later, we flew to, I think it was St. Martin or St. Thomas. I don't recall, but we reboarded the ship because my uncle had again facilitated the FBI boarding. Interpol was involved when we got back on the ship. And attorneys.
So technically, the ship went on to another island without them, thinking that they're not going to get back on. That is so off key. It really is. It's like they just wanted to fob it off as an accident.
Were present, introducing themselves as risk management, which as a 21-year-old, I had no clue what that was. I didn't know. I was talking to their attorney.
Right.
But they made sure they were standing front and center by the time we got back on the boat.
So FBI got involved and Interpol and stuff like that. So that was part one, people. Don't forget to subscribe to Streamline Entertainment and WTVR CBS 6 if you want to watch the whole episode. It is mind-boggling at the end of the day. But I 100% believe what the brother had to say. He was so relaxed. There's no way he lied about anything. Because like I said, people was trying to say him or his dad were a suspect, which is completely out of order. Let me know what you think, people. Let's get all your thoughts. Thank you.